Are you ready?
I've been ready. And I'll tell you what, I am picking. JR, you want to know who I'm picking?
What are you picking there, big boy?
I'm picking Triple H to win this match. You know why?
Why's that?
Because Triple H knows Shawn Michaels better than anybody, and also China is closer to Triple H, if you know what I mean. As far as I've observed, I think that means Helmsley's going to win.
Well, here comes China again carrying Michaels' gold. Already tonight, we have seen exposed buttocks. We have seen the Godwin's country with the headbangers. We've seen Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stunner, a bogus Santa Claus.
We've seen Goldust dressed up like a Christmas tree. We have seen Santa Claus, Santa Vader, hit Goldust with his bag of goodies. We have seen a lot of stuff, JR.
And what about Kane?
Kane. And The Undertaker finally locked up. And Kane left The Undertaker laying on the mat because Undertaker wouldn't fight back. This has been it ain't your ordinary Christmas show. It ain't your father's Christmas special.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'll never forget the old rattlesnake himself, a man that says he has one thing on his mind, that's to be the WWF champion, putting a hurting on that bogus Santa Claus for disrespecting that young fan. And when you talk about disrespect, you have to focus on D-Generation X.
Well, there's been some problems between these two tonight as well, because in the battle of the egos, each one of them got their feathers ruffled.
Michael has got his game face on.
Shawn Michaels.
We have a sold-out crowd here tonight. We expect great crowds this weekend in Milwaukee, the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, the Worcester Center, Worcester, Massachusetts, Hamilton, Ontario, Victor Cox Coliseum. Not to mention next week we'll be live in the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, Long Island, and 1 week from tomorrow in New Haven, Connecticut.
What a Christmas present from Commissioner Slaughter. Michaels and Helmsley head up. They've had some harsh words to say to each other tonight. I can't wait to see when they finally lock up, when they finally start tearing at each other, what kind of action that we're going to see out of this match.
I've heard of Montezuma's revenge, had that one time at Tennessee, but anyway, this must be Slaughter's revenge.
We may need to get on the telephone to USA Network, whoever the head honcho is around there, and tell them we need some more time. This thing may go a long time.
The European title is on the line. Shawn Michaels defending the European title against his teammate, or maybe we should say more specifically after tonight's verbal barrage, his former teammate in D-Generation X, Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Two big egos are about to collide head-on in the middle of the ring. And D-Generation X may be coming apart at the seams. I love this. This is great. Hey, the director even says they are making that phone call.
No doubt about that. Helmsley knows Michaels very, very well, probably better than anybody here in the World Wrestling Federation. There is a great deal of mutual respect athletically between these two athletes who are, quite frankly, very, very gifted.
They're also cautious. They know each other. They know each other's moves and each other's strategies.
Interesting there. Michaels was he getting some instructions, encouragement, or what from China?
Well, they're going to be starting slow because neither one of them wants to make a mistake. And it may be a little psych out as well, too, because now Triple H doing the same thing. One-upsmanship is coming into play here.
Remember the European title on the line. Shawn Michaels putting the European title on the line here, as he will the WWF title at the Royal Rumble in that much-anticipated casket match with The Undertaker. Collar and elbow tie-up. Wait.
And reluctantly on his part on both of them, he didn't want to put the title up either.
Wait a minute.
What the?
Why is Michaels just lying there?
Well, why don't Helmsley slow down and stop? What is it?
It's a mockery. We thought that... Yeah, here it is.
It was a ruse, a ploy, a plot, a plan, a charade, a conspiracy, a sham. We've been conned, hoodwinked, bamboozled, flim-flammed, had the wool pulled over our eyes even.
Slaughter apparently has been watching this on a monitor. We've just been informed and is on his way to the ring. Helmsley with the European title.
Look at.
We thought it was going to be Slaughter's revenge.
Look at these two jackasses. Hey, Michael cries every time he comes to this town.
I can't believe this. We thought we were going to see the destruction of D-Generation X. Here comes Slaughter.
Helmsley looks like he needs oxygen.
Slaughter standing there with egg on his face, eggnog or whatever.
Well, he's good at crying on cue.
It's a wonderful life, isn't it?
Ask George Bailey, not Shawn Michaels.
You know,
Well, say it already.
They did it. You got to hand it to them.
It's not easy.
They pulled the wool right over our eyes.
He's defeated for the Covenant European title.
They've done it again.
Is anybody out there as sick as I am of seeing the sport made a mockery out of by these guys?
Matches. I've been in ladder matches. I've been in cell matches. I've been in marathon matches, but
They got us.
never has any match been so emotionally, physically, and mentally draining as this one. You won. I love you, man.
He's lost his smile.
What has Slaughter got to be thinking about this?
We've been duped. Slaughter made a. Well, they got us all.
I'd just like to say one thing, that other than my kid being born, well, I don't have one that I know of, but this is the greatest moment of my life. Yes, Sarge! I did it! I did it!
Well, we all thought Slaughter had everything planned, was gonna.
I know you didn't need any help from us, Sarge, but we made an ass out of you anyway.
He did.
Merry Christmas.
You gotta admit it. They did it.
Merry Christmas, Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah, now Europe has a champion that they can really be.
Next week you'll be defending your title against Owen Hart.
Did you hear that?
Merry Christmas.
Slaughter just said that next week Helmsley would be defending the European title against Owen Hart.
Holy mackerel! And Helmsley doesn't know it. Helmsley, he couldn't hear Slaughter. Ha ha!
Slaughter did get the last word. It is going to be a great Christmas. It's going to happen next week in the Nassau Coliseum.
He who laughs last.
This is the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, presented by Hami Media and the Pro Wrestling Reflection, where we discuss the very best of the best in pro wrestling history.
And what you gonna do when Hulkamania and the largest arms in the world run wild on you?
The two soundest wrestlers in the World Wrestling Federation, maybe in the history of the World Wrestling Federation, are right here, right now. Mr. Perfect and the exclusive execution, the Hitman.
WrestleMania weekend isn't complete without the Heartbreak Kid, and he is on his way.
He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family. They think they got the answers. I change the question. You will rest in peace.
Get used to it in Ric Flair, who you're looking at, the man.
This man! What the
What is going on there, Reflectionites? What is going on there to the Vetoites, the Haminites, the Solitary Confinement PWCites, the Magnificent 7, the Elite 8, the 99, the Terrific 10? You know who you are. And never say that the professor never takes requests. Never say that I don't do this show for you, the Reflectionites. If you give me suggestions, I will do my best to put it on the air, to put it on a podcast, to put it on the YouTubes, because I do this show for y'all's enjoyment, not for my edification, not for my enjoyment. That make me vain, even though I am vain. That would make me arrogant, which I am arrogant, but I won't do things for me. I do it for you. So when they slide into the DMs, no Diddy, they always give me suggestions. That's all I'm just saying. They just give me suggestions. And we got a suggestion of a show, of a spotlight here on the Harmony Media Group at PWR.com. But before we get into the show, before we talk about what we're going to be doing, I got to do something that, TW says I got to do all the time. He reminded me in the DMs, you better do the intro right. Do not do what you did last week, because you messed my whole mojo up. I don't know why I messed his mojo up, Reflectionites. I just thought I was just going along with the show. We were having a rapport, but of course, it's not a meritocracy. It's not an oligarchy for me. It's a democracy. I do what TW asks because I am for the people. And if you ain't for the people, you can't buy the people. Link it. Remember that. And with that being said, you okay? You're looking at a fly? See, he's shaking his head. You're supposed to say something, Reflection, but that's
I'm not introduced yet. I don't talk till I'm introduced.
See, now I messed his mojo up. See? You see what I'm talking about? I messed up the mojo. But anyway, I am the most charismatic one. I am the most studious one. I am the most effervescent one. But most importantly, I am the most glorious one. The only objective man in this IWC, YWC, and PWC punditry. The only objective man in this political hemisphere. The only objective man in this Twitterverse. The only objective man that will call it right down the middle. The Professor Chabelle Cruz. And I'm not here alone. No. I am here with my brother from another mother. The conservative liberal conservative, dum-dum doing idiot zone. The iron stomach one. Mr. Wonderful Dr. Frickenstein. And still undefeated. And still undisputed. Universal, Hard Rock City, Detroit heavyweight champion of the world, Tommy Wonder. And for the show, you messed up. You got the wrong belt. Forget about the rain. I don't care about the rain. I don't care about the sunshine. I don't care about storm clouds. I don't care about snow. You got the wrong belt. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Reflectionites. He's holding the wrong Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight title. He's supposed to do something else, but neither here nor there. But
no. Sneak peek, no spoilers. Next week, something big.
Something big. All right. Well, how you doing? How you doing, my friend?
Listen, I'm doing good. You see my shirt?
You're wearing the most overrated tag team in WWE history that gets no pop as much as
you're out of your mind. I was there. They get a pop.
Social media says otherwise. I'm just calling it like they say.
Are idiots. Let me tell you about social media. I didn't even notice you just told me this. So this is my reaction in real time. Let me tell you what those neckbeards are mad about. Because the rumor was they were going to AEW and they didn't. So what happens when people do that? The internet comes after them. But look, got this in the mail today.
You got the Josh Floberg discount for that? For that Dusty Rhodes action figure?
He's got a discount?
He always tweets you the discount links.
I barely check the Twitters, man. I use MD Toys discount. What's Josh's? I'll use his.
Go on. Check
these a couple weeks ago and I didn't show you them.
I'm just saying, check your responses, check your notifications. Josh always gives you the links to these discounts. And
most
you got
underrated tag team in the league right now, right there, buddy.
No. That's the and already in the ring, as you would say.
They don't have to wrestle. They're always doing backstage gimmicks. And then here you go. The fact that they made a toy of this guy currently in AEW is astonishing to me. But I think it's because it's a bulk figure. They just reissued one they already made.
Road Dogg and Billy Gunn.
Yep. And then, there are two of them. Forgot about this one.
TW, didn't you say in 2025 you're going to try to do less of this for yourself?
This is all stuff that I ordered before 2025.
Jesus Christ. There's always a loophole, Reflection. That says always a loophole here.
Yeah. So, doing good. I got this shirt, and I also got the DIY shirt with Tommaso Ciampa's logo turning into the smiley face of Gargano. And I'm telling you, they are over. It was insane. I, too, thought that the crowd didn't seem into him when I watched him a couple times on SmackDown. But once I saw him on the holiday show, and obviously it was in Detroit, but the place was bananas for him. Ever since then, when I've seen him on SmackDown, I've paid attention to just the crowd. And whenever Saban's pretty good at trying to pop the crowd, Shelley's good at it too, but he's not like Saban's like aggressive with it, and they react, and I like that. So
I'm just telling you what the social media says. I didn't say I agree with it, but they said that Motor Machine Guns has been a flop of a signing. They get no reaction. They get no pop, no nothing. The only pop they got was when they beat the Bloodline for the titles, and then that was it. That's all I'm just saying. I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying that's what
awesome. And I think what is happening is it's not going to be long before Ciampa and Gargano are baby faces again, because they're getting over as heels, and I think that takes away from it. So, but here's a funny, I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but have I ever told you about how I'll talk about something randomly, and then within 24 hours, that thing happens or comes up some other way? Have I ever told you that happens to me all the time?
We've been doing this podcast for 7 years. This has been your mantra. It's happening.
Okay. So Friday night, I'm laying in bed. I'm watching The Landman, right? Greatest show on TV right now. And I'm like, man, there's probably only one episode left of this. I go, are they ever bringing Jack Reacher back? The next day, I'm in the middle of telling a story at a birthday party for my cousin at a bar to my girlfriend Tony and my cousin's boyfriend Gary. And I look up and happen to see on the TV Jack Reacher season 3 coming February. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what in the hell are the chances that the night before I was wondering if they hit, and then the next day it's like God answered me, right? Last week, we record on Mondays. We talked about doing this show. I work Tuesday through Saturdays, right? I told you on the show, I don't know, did we talk about doing it, or did we talk about it after we stopped recording?
Probably after.
Okay, but you and I talked about it. So I told you before when I hung out with D'Lo back in Maple Leaf Pro, whatever, October, I think it was. When I hung out with him that weekend, I told him, hey, man, you know, there's a lot of people that think you're the greatest European champion of all time. And now that I've watched the stuff that we watched to prepare for this show, I can see why. It's a toss-up between him and another guy.
Well, before anything.
Tuesday, I start working. And there's this young black kid. He's just moved in. I'm talking to him. I exchanged his bed for him. Found out afterwards I shouldn't have, because it was doorstep delivery. That's another story. But I still did. We end up talking. And as I walk out to leave, what do I see sitting on the floor in his house that he's currently moving into?
What we're going to be talking about?
That belt behind your head.
Oh, my goodness.
But
he
not
was a wrestling
only
fan.
that belt. That belt with the green back, which is the one D'Lo had. And he had it. And I went, wow, dude. I said, I do a podcast, and last night we decided we're doing a podcast on that belt. I go, I have never seen anyone have that belt. I've seen title belts in many houses, right? That's why I got the idea to get the cabinet to put them in there, because, again, I don't know if I've ever said this before. I've never met a young black guy that wasn't a wrestling fan. It's contagious. Like, I go into a house, and they're young. They're either watching it or there's something there to let me know they're a fan. So this kid had a curio of it. But so I started talking to him. I'm like, yeah, I go, and I normally don't do this, but I was a wrestler too. I go, and I told him me and D'Lo kind of came up together, and he made it to WWE. He's like, oh, no way. And I said, I just told him recently that people think he's and I didn't know that belt, the green one, was his until after I left. I'm like, man, I didn't remember, because you know how the TV title's red. Sometimes the US title was red. The world tags are blue. I have one right there. I just thought, wow, I don't think I ever realized the green on the European title. Then he had, and this is nerd speak, He had the Crumb Rhyme Ric Flair world title that had that red snakeskin back on the back. It was black in the front, red on the back. He had those two belts, which means he got those aftermarket, because I don't even know if the WWE sells the European title, and if they do, I love that picture you got behind you. I keep feeling like you have it there, but that would be the biggest belt ever.
That's my collection.
Even though I have, well, they're in the other room. Even though I have 2 Intercontinental titles, I have the Warriors yellow and the scratch logo white that Cody had. The yellow one has that WWF logo without the F. I want the Macho Man, and since I don't have a black one, I could do it. I want the black one with the blue gold globe that they just added to that new Intercontinental title, made it look way better, with the WWF logo in red, like that European title up there. But the letters are red. That's a rare one. I want that one. But what are the chances, man, that this kid would have that belt, like, period, let alone the day, less than 12 hours after you and I decided we were doing the show, I see a European title laying on the floor of this dude's house.
It is karma, TW. It's just really karma right now.
Crazy,
it's Kismet, it's ESPN, and all that stuff. But anyway, Reflectionites, we are doing a spotlight on I don't know if I want to say it's an untapped potential title legacy for championship belts, Reflectionites. Because I got some things to say. I might rant a little bit, TW, but we're going to do a spotlight on the untapped potential WWE European Championship. So we're going to name some names of champions. I don't have a top 5. Maybe TW has a top 5 and all that stuff. But we're going to name some names. We're going to name some champions and all that stuff. But TW, before we even get into like the champions listings and all that stuff, we got to give the logistics about this, because there's some key elements here where I can have kind of like a negative critique about this belt. This is a what could have been with this belt. You and I can agree with the WWE European Championship that if this title was still alive in terms of relevancy, in terms of importance to this day, it would have the legacy of, let's say, a television championship. We know where the European Championship was on the hierarchy. It was one level below the Intercontinental Championship. It's a litmus test to get to the next level in terms of mid-card to the main event spot and all that stuff. I already know that. Logistically, Reflectionites, we know that in 1997, TW, I don't know if you knew this, but WCW was kicking Vince McMahon's ass for 83 straight weeks and all that stuff. But we're talking about America here. 83 straight weeks in America. WWE was losing money and all that stuff. But they were making money only one other avenue: international tours. And if you remember, TW, in 1997, that unique dynamic, Bret Hart was the hero in India. He was the hero in the United Kingdom. He was the hero in Saudi Arabia, Ireland, and all points in between. And he was booed out in Canada, and he was booed out the building in the United States. So that caused an epiphany to Vince McMahon. He said, I got to take advantage of this. I got to have more international tours. But also, he wanted to bring a caveat to that. And right behind me, Reflectionites, if you see it on the videos, but they track around that slow-ass motherfucker, you won't see this for another month or so. Excuse me. I have the European title right behind my shoulder. This belt, TW, if you did not know this, would be a rung below the heavyweight champion. So if Bret Hart was main eventing a card in Saudi Arabia, this belt was probably going to be the double main event or a very high profile match and all that stuff. So in essence, TW, this title was going to be more important than the Intercontinental title outside of the United States. So I'm just giving you the logistics here. Now here's my caveat, TW, of why this fell flat on its ass. There's 2 reasons for this, in my humble opinion. This title lasted, TW, from 1997 to 2002. So you only had 5 years of history with the European Championship.
With a break in there.
Yeah, with a stupid, I guess, storyline break and stuff like that. But TW can expound on that. But I'm just going to give you my 2 reasons why this title fell flat on its ass, TW, in 5 years. Because Vince McMahon's vision, it was a daunting task. I actually respect the vision, what he wanted to do with it.
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea. But there was 2 facets of it. One facet, in my humble opinion, TW, before you have your own take on this, was Vince Russo. Vince Russo just looked at belts as props. Just looked at belts as the next Jerry Springer moment, the next Howard Stern moment. And that's the way he was booking Monday Night Raw. It wasn't really about championship matches. It wasn't about 5-star matches and all that stuff. We got to be honest with ourselves. Vince Russo was booking for the short attention span, microwave fans, and he needed that hot moment. So if the European title was going to change hands, so be it. It changed hands every week or maybe every 2 weeks and all that stuff. That was one factor. The second factor is a funny thing, TW, because I don't understand, because I'm thinking about this, TW, and follow me here. The Attitude Era. By 1999, TW, they were so big. They were worldwide and all that stuff. Vince McMahon just said, fuck it. We're going to do less international tours. We're not going to take advantage of this. We're not going to become officially a $1 billion company, all that stuff. I understand, Reflectionites, it's expensive to do international tours. You got to do hotels, you got to do transportation, you got to do the bus thing and all that stuff. And we already know the airplane ride from hell. Right. Flights, passports, international incidences. I understand that. Yeah. That too. I'm just saying the airplane ride from hell. We don't have to get into that, TW. But the second reason why this belt fell flat on its ass in 5 years was the Attitude Era. And Vince McMahon did not capitalize on wanting to tour more and wanted to do his vision of how important this belt should be. So TW, that's my reason. So what say you, maybe you have a different take on it, maybe a different variation. Why do you think that this belt that has so much untapped potential fell flat on its ass in just 5 years?
I remember being excited that they made it. And I think I didn't even find out about it until they said Bulldog won the tournament. That's how I found out they even had that belt. I love that they put it on Bulldog. There are some champions along the way that are kind of, Vince or Jay Leno, David Swimmer, whatever the hell, not David Swimmer, David Arquette winning the belt, and Shane. But then again, Shane is, I mean, he was like an attraction. He wasn't like Brock Lesnar, but he didn't wrestle all the time. When he did, I think most of us were impressed by Shane McMahon's outings, right? And at this window, he wrestled a little bit more often. But I think it was harder than he realized, and that's why you end up, going part-time. But I liked it because just watching this, just random names that I'm going to say, because obviously we're not going to cover everybody, but seeing Saturn beat Eddie Guerrero. Like, if you told someone today that Saturn beat Eddie Guerrero clean, you would be like, fuck you, right? If you heard Christian beat JBL clean, not necessarily clean, but beat him for the belt, right? You'd be like, no way, and I think Shane beat Christian. I don't know who Shane beat. Shane beat somebody for that belt, but
X-Pac.
But guys like Al Snow got to run with it. Saturn, like I said, got to run with it. So they actually used it for what they were trying to do. They're trying to elevate someone like Al, Saturn, and it worked for Eddie. It worked for Jericho. They ended up going on to being, intercontinental players and then some world. And they did this. I don't know if you're saving this for later, so I won't say who, but there was multiple people that were Eurocontinental champion where they had both belts at the same time. That now that you told me Russo was behind it all, a lot of the stuff that happened in those situations makes more sense now. I don't mind a belt changing hands often. I think it makes it look realer, right? Like,
I'm just saying that
I don't want to change hands every week, but like a guy having a 3-month.
But that's the Vince Russo logic from '97 to '99. Right. So we have to be realistic.
But I'm saying forget Vince. I'm talking like NWA '80s. Tully would lose the TV title to somebody and then win it back. I love that shit, trading the belt back and forth. And some of the guys that traded this belt back and forth are guys that never would have sniffed title belts ever, other than maybe a tag match. Spike Dudley was European champion.
You just going back. You're just naming a list right now. I just gave you
the people that aren't prestigious, dude. We're gonna talk about the best of the best. I'm sure, right? But I'm saying these guys, this belt. This is all going to answer your question. It could have been so much more. I'm glad you didn't say what everyone else says, because I think it's an absolutely ludicrous criticism of this belt. There were only 2 people that were actually European that were the champions. Number 1, and we'll talk about number 2 later.
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell is that a prerequisite to win it? That's dumb. That's to say you have to be European. But what I think is, like you said, they didn't go over there enough, and I'm stunned. Brett must have been world champion when they did this because they put it on Bulldog. And side note, in case you were going to talk about this, I didn't know until today that Bulldog won a tournament and the finals were against Owen while they were tag team champions. That's awesome. That makes me feel like Russo had nothing to do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I won the light heavyweight title in GLW by beating Rico, and we were tag team. It wasn't turning on each other. I beat him to become the first ever light heavyweight champion, right?
Right.
So that Axe and Smash being 1 and 2 in the Royal Rumble, and they've done it with other tag teams since. That's cool stuff. That's dream match stuff, but like without heat, like just you want to see 2 guys wrestle each other because you're like, what if? Who's the better rocker? Who's the better whatever? So that was cool. But the good thing about this belt is it started with heavy hitters. Number 1, Bulldog. Number 2, Shawn Michaels. So now when Al Snow or Saturn or somebody else wins it, they're in that company. And I think I told you what D'Lo said to me when I told him, some people consider you the greatest of all time. And he said, brother, I'm humbled to be included in the conversation with some of the names that held that title. So I'm stunned Brett didn't get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's the guy that's he was Wayne Gretzky-esque in Canada, right?
But
like,
he didn't need the title because he was
right,
the
I understand that, but I didn't know he was the world champion. Mm-hmm. I'm saying if he wasn't, how great heat would that be for him to have that belt and be like, I don't need your belt, Sean, and to look like he's snobbing. That would make that belt even better, right? Like to say, I'd rather have this than that.
It could have been. I understand what you're saying. So we're going to name the first champion because it kind of goes along with the European thing. But I'll say this. Maybe the name shouldn't have been the European Championship. I'm just thinking. I just think that maybe it's 30 years too late, but this should have been the WWF International Champion. So this way you don't have to have that supposed prerequisite criticism, because then if you're touring in Saudi Arabia
and defend it around the world,
defend it around the world and have that kind of prestige for the wrestling media. I'm not talking about crossover. I'm not talking about national media and all that stuff. This is a great platform for if it was called the WWE International Championship. It was ahead of its time. I think Vince
just
McMahon.
gave me an idea.
Well, hold the idea. Let me just say this. This was ahead of its time because I think Vince McMahon, before the amnesia and dementia kicked in and his own his own sense of humor, he had something that made business sense. He had something that could have been something that made a lot of money overseas. But again, the logistics, the cost, and all that stuff stopped everything in its tracks. But like I said, I'm dumbfounded because, again, the Attitude Era was printing out money, TW. In 1999, 2000, at the peak of crossover national notoriety and all this stuff. Well, not national, worldwide notoriety. This title would have been so important in Japan. They could have invaded New Japan with this belt if they wanted to do. I'm just saying, because Vince is petty like that. But again, neither here nor there. So go ahead, TW. What's your thought?
So you know how NXT and TNA do crossovers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they let Nakamura and there was someone else they let go wrestle in Japan. AJ.
That was Omos.
Omos is still with WWE?
Yeah, he's the Noah tag team champion right now.
AJ went over there. Nakamura took the U.S. title there. They should make, and at first I thought, this has always been my idea for like say they had a super card. We're never going to get WWF versus AEW unless they buy them, WWE. You have, like, not necessarily put it in a computer, but for fairness sake, and I just was thinking about it while you were talking, they should make an inter-promotional title that goes between NXT and Impact, TNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my idea for fairness has always been, all right, all the matches, we're not going to say who wins, who loses, because everyone just knows it's going to be heavy WWE wins, right? You flip a coin, heads or tails, but the coin heads is a WWE, tails is a Impact, fairness, right? Flip a coin, whatever lands on, that person wins, and you do it again in the next round. Only caveat would have to be, what if that coin toss landed on Impact every time? You can't do that, right? So then I had the perfect idea. You have an NXT tournament to determine the winner of that side. You have an Impact guy tournament to determine the winner of that side. And then when those two fight, you flip the coin. And whoever wins it, wins it. And then you have it defended cross promotions. And you could take that belt to wherever they loaned Omos, to wherever Nakamura went, to wherever AJ went, and defend it there. And the best thing is, leave it. Let somebody there win it and leave it there and have it defended in that promotion until you take it back. It would be awesome.
It would be awesome, but that's more of fan logic. It's not business. It's not business logic because it never works because, again, the egos of all these promoters and bookers.
That's why I say you make it a lesser title. You don't do it the world title or the IP title.
Again, I understand, but I'm just saying the ego of Triple H, the ego of Tony Khan, the ego of Conan for AAA and all that stuff. I'm just giving you examples. The ego of Tanahashi in fucking New Japan. When you're trying to do interpromotional business, TW, you already know. I got to protect my own first and foremost. I got to have my brand not be looked like as a stepchild. We've seen the stepchild, kind of promotions happening right now in the last decade. Ring of Honor was a stepchild to New Japan. And right now in 2020, Cinco Reflectionites, New Japan is the stepchild to AEW, no matter what this partnership is. So anyway, TW, let's get into at least naming some European champions, and we cannot forget the first ever WWE European champion, TW. Hold up that action figure for me one more time. This man, it was bred for him. It was named for him, you could say. The first ever WWE European champion was the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. He won in a tournament, and they did this good on Raw when Raw was not live every week, TW, because he won it in a tournament in Germany, and he won it in the Berlin or whatever, and he won it in the finals against his tag team championship partner Owen Hart. And this was one of Dave Meltzer's 4 3/4 stars, TW. This was one of Dave Meltzer's favorite matches of WWE lore and all that shit. But neither here nor there. But TW, again, I was never going to say that you needed the Bulldog to be the European champion because he is European, but it was apropos that he was the first European champion because, again, I think the vision for Vince McMahon in long-term thinking for himself when, again, WCW was kicking WWE's ass, he was going to be a great diplomat. He was going to be a great international ambassador for WWE to defend the European title in the United Kingdom, to defend the title in Ireland and all that stuff. So what say you about the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith? Because his first reign lasted for about over 200 days. So he had a healthy run with the European title. Again, maybe they didn't storyline him properly to make that title mean something. I don't know. Maybe what say you, TW? Because he is the first, and technically he is the best European champion of all in the listings. What say you, TW, about the British Bulldog?
I think it's awesome because while not a Grand Slam, he's technically a Triple Crown because he was tag team, Intercontinental, and European champion. He's another guy we always say, him and Scott Hall, both would have been world champions had they not had their demons.
Right.
And he's good. And I disagree. I think when he had the belt, it meant something. And I didn't know until today that when he lost it to Shawn, I do remember there being controversy, but just call me a mark. I remember it was because he lost the belt with the turnbuckle being removed and he hit his back on the metal because the pad was not there. And I completely forgot about the fans trashing the ring because he lost it in his hometown in front of his fans after dedicating it to his dying sister because he was supposed to go over, and the day of the show they changed it. And it's like, yes, it's one more thing to hate Vince for to the people that hate him. But on the second note, Davey Boy's not going to do all that stuff if he thinks he's losing, right?
Right.
So for him to do all that and then lose, the heat that got Shawn Michaels was priceless. right? It was absolutely priceless. They set that thing up so predictably that the Bulldog was retaining, so that when he lost, people were stunned. And to me, I wouldn't change a thing if I was Vince. I'd do it the same way. I would apologize to Davey Boy, and I think he regained it another time.
He didn't regain it until 99 when he came back.
I mean, not from Sean. Sean ended up losing it to Triple H.
But we'll talk about. I don't want to go list for list because again, we can just go talk about the best.
I think that belt had very good momentum and very good heat in year one, and I think it did a lot.
Well, I agree. In year one, with the first maybe 3 champions, you could say it's a Hall of Famers list. I'm not going to dispute that. But again, I think my question to you, TW, is again, I think you and I can agree that Vince McMahon's plan for Davey Boy is to be that diplomat, that international ambassador for WWE for the tours. He fucked him over in fucking England with his sister, dedicating to his sister, and then losing it to Shawn Michaels.
He fucked him over for a mark for the belt.
Right. But again, if Bret Hart believes his own hype, I can assure you that Davey Boy believed his own hype and probably was being told.
What year was Bret versus Davey Boy? 93?
92, SummerSlam.
Okay. So this is 5 years later. Davey Boy's lucky to be there after what he did in 93, right?
Yeah.
And to pick him as the guy to represent when he almost went to prison under the WWE fucking contract. So I understand both sides, but I would say Davey Boy probably didn't care as much as fans do that he lost. He probably felt embarrassed.
He got a healthy run. He got the healthy 200 plus day first
and
run.
got to lose it to Shawn.
I don't think he wanted to. I don't think he didn't want to,
but
in that circumstance.
Losing it to Shawn is better than losing it to Spike Dudley.
Put it this way. I guess we could talk about the second champion because, again, the first 3 were the best, I guess you could say, 3 European champions. He loses it to Shawn Michaels with all that heat. And I'm not going to say it's momentum, but it's just Shawn Michaels is a heat magnet for everything he's doing.
Right.
Degeneration X, controversies creates cash and all that stuff. And Vince wanted to see the thing about the Attitude Era and then the Vince Russo thing was Vince Russo knew that this was a good controversial international incident in the ring to create. The flip side, TW, from my standpoint, again, maybe you could call me a mark or whatever, I don't care, but you're taking the belt off of Davey Boy in England. If you took it off of Davey Boy in maybe Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, maybe it wouldn't piss people off more. But you're doing it in his hometown. You're doing it.
Which is why do it then. They did it for that reason.
But the caveat to do it on that night means you run the risk of losing money for the next time you go to that arena. Lower ticket sales, less money, and all that stuff. Again, they did less tours after the fact for the first vision of it. So you're taking that risk. You're losing money.
But the only way you lose money is if it's not Bulldog challenging Shawn for the belt in the rematch.
I'm just giving you what my reasoning is and my thought process.
I know the risk, but I think the reward. I guarantee you, they were sitting around. They go, "What if he fucking lost it here? Mm-hmm. It would blow up this place. This place would lose it," and it did. They did the NWO fucking litter toss.
Right.
But I like I said, I wouldn't change a thing. I thought it was genius. We know it's hindsight, but we have to at least acknowledge the negative that it did, because again, you run that risk. Like, I can't go back to that arena right now because I know that it's going to be embarrassing to have like maybe a 20% ticket drop off. It's embarrassing right there, because what are you trying to do? You're trying to create an international. Well, you could always do what Tony did. You could just buy the difference in tickets and say it was sold out.
Well, Vince was losing money, so neither here nor there. But TW, what say you about the Hall of Famer, a real Grand Slam champion, Shawn Michaels being the second incarnation with the European Championship?
I think it's great, and I think what it ends up looking like is this match is very similar to Boston Garden, Macho Man beating Tito with the foreign object. Like, it had that heat, and I think Macho Man won the Intercontinental title pretty early on in WWE, like within that first year or two of being there. Mm-hmm. and it skyrocketed him. And with Sean, the heat he got, he wins the world title right after that. You know, like not long after that. And so, was this right before the screw job?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. So this is like gasoline on a fire heat. That's good, man. And it got some strong heat, and it elevated Sean even more when you didn't think he could get any higher. You know what I mean? But the best thing is as a heel, you know what I mean? You get all these guys that are so over as baby faces. Like, hats off to Cody. I'm stunned they haven't turned on him yet, right? Like, just stunned, because Cody is basically what they tried to do with Roman, but got booed out of the building. What they tried to do with The Rock, but got booed out of the building. Cody has been cheered from day one. 3 years later, still getting cheered, like selling merch, all that. Sean did it as a heel. And in a time, especially the Attitude Era, in a time where people cheered the bad guys. They cheered the NWO. They bought NWO merch. They ended up buying DX merch too. But I wouldn't be surprised if Sean had death threats getting out of that building, you know.
You know, you and I are celebrating this, and like you always will say, we would not be having this podcast if certain decisions that Vince McMahon made. He took a risk and he ran with it, and 9 times out of 10, he was right to do it. We're never going to deny that.
Was the other Vince made the call.
That's true. But like I said, having this podcast, this is why we can go back, and we could be Monday morning quarterback, but that's why I keep saying Reflectionites. Again, I'm wrong because we're here because of what he did. But I'm just saying, but you run this risk. You disrespect Davey Boy Smith in Birmingham, England. You actually losing money if you try to go back to England and say, oh, God. If that was a 10,000-seat arena, TW, let's say the ticket sales went to 3,000. You lose 7,000, and this is hypothetical. I'm just saying. But again, like, it's not worth it and all that stuff. But then Shawn Michaels is creating heat for the WWE, for America, Reflectionites. Let's not forget that. He's trying to gain momentum because he's being controversial with D-Generation X. And, of course, with Monday Night Raw against the Monday Nitro, TW, you had to put the European belt on Shawn Michaels because of that reason. And, of course, to egg on Bret the Hitman Hart to get to the Survivor Series for the Montreal screw job. And then let's be honest here. Shawn Michaels was a unified European World Heavyweight Champion because he had both of those belts until that fateful night in December of 1997, where the 3rd European champion was crowned, and that was Triple H in the first ever finger poke of doom. TW, what say you about that?
So that's what my question was going to be. Did they do it before Nash and Hogan?
Yes.
And you just answered that they did. So then the finger poke of doom is one of, like, it's almost the beginning of the end of the NW. That's one of the things that people were furious about. I think that happened after the Mick Foley thing, right?
No, that was the same night.
Oh my! So it's So now that I know that they did it after, that makes it worse, right? Like,
you know, it's funny, TW. Hold your thought for a second. But this first finger poke of doom made all the sense in the world because of their name. Yeah. It was D-Generation X. They were bucking tradition. They weren't taking over WWE Reflectionites. No, TW. They were just fucking over Vince McMahon. They were fucking over authority. This was Generation X, TW. They're like, the young kids are like, fuck the baby boomers. We're going to do it our way. And this way, it was not like, oh, this was a death nail to the business of wrestling. This was actually fucking funny shit. For TV purposes, this wasn't live, so let's be clear here. So we don't know if we don't have the real audio, TW, because this wasn't a live Raw when they did this, so they could like amplify the boos and the hisses and all that stuff. We don't know how it was, but for TV purposes, this was funny shit. So TW, what say you about that?
And this is around the time when they're wearing the fucking helmets with the shields because Sergeant Slaughter spit when he talked. It was good. It was good stuff, man. And again, it made sense because he had to get rid of one belt. It made no sense for Hogan to just lay down and drop the belt to the other guy, Kevin Nash, right?
No, Kevin Nash dropped the belt to Hogan.
Oh, right.
It's the elaborate plan that all that
makes Kevin look because he beat Goldberg with the cattle prod, which was also received horribly. So that just made Kevin look like a patsy. This looked like, okay, well, I got to get one belt. Why not do this? So it made sense, and kept the belt with the DX family and everybody. Rude's gone by this time, right? Because he walked out right after Survivor Series.
Yeah.
China held it. I don't know if she was champion, but she held the belt when they would do promos and stuff. So, but
no, she was just the guardian of the belt, like Maria Shafir's.
Then it almost is also the beginning of the end of taking the belt seriously because of how Triple H loses it. So that's the first wah wah. Like if people didn't, I'm assuming the tape version they did. If they had to amplify the boos to make it look like it got over. Because I don't know, because the fans in attendance could have just not cared, right? You don't know. I guess you can look at him and tell, but the way he loses the belt is strike one for sure, and the way Shawn loses it might be a foul tip, almost a strike, but not strike three.
Well, it's funny you say that because as funny as it is, TW, the way that DX kind of like got one over on Sergeant Slaughter with that angle. This is a new belt. You're trying to create a new legacy. You're trying to create
headlines.
You're trying to give it headlines, but this is not the headlines for a legacy of a European championship, a legacy of a belt to be taken seriously as a prestigious belt on the WWE hierarchy. So with that being said, these were the first three most legitimate European champions. And then after that, TW, let's just do this. Your favorites, your hit or misses as European champions. I'll start with the hit because after Triple H, we have to give credence to rest in heaven, the Rocket, the King of Hearts, Owen Hart, because he defeated Triple H. And I think it was like a month after that this kind of screw job happened first, the finger poke of doom. So what say you, TW, about the King of Hearts, Owen Hart, as the European champion, continuing the Hart legacy, if you will, even though Bret Hart was already gone at this time.
I like that because this is a very probably hard time for Owen, and unfortunately, a year and a half later, he's no longer with us. I like that with the screw job, and Bulldog walked out, Rude walked out, Ambo walked out. Owen couldn't. They weren't letting Owen go. They knew Owen was, as you will, a blue chipper, right? I like that they pushed him. And for the record, this isn't the way Triple H loses that I'm referring to. I'm referring to.
Did they push Owen or did they fuck with Owen? There's a difference in perception.
He was the fucking main event every week. You can call it what you want. I'm telling you.
I don't know, Bill. I'm just saying.
From a wrestler's perspective, if you're on TV every week, if you have a belt, no matter what belt it is, unless it's the hardcore title, that's a whole nother thing, 24/7 too. To have a belt, to have a feud with the top guys, and to be on TV every week, and to hold that belt by beating one of those top guys, they pushed Owen. Whether it be down your throat, down a cliff, or to the moon, he still was on TV. They didn't just keep him off TV and punish him for everybody else quitting, and he couldn't, right? In the end, you almost wish they would have let him go because he wouldn't have been on that damn harness if he was in WCW. But then again, you had fucking Sting doing it at the same time with the stupid harness. So
I'm just saying, you said it from the wrestler's perspective. Yes, the first 6 months he was pushed positively, but then he's called a little nugget. Then he's the blue blazer as a clumsy idiot, and then God forbid.
I'm talking immediately after the screw job. That because he could have been like, "Fuck you guys," and they were like, "No, we're gonna push you, right?" But Owen was great at comedy. The blue blazer was when it made me love him even more, and then he dies, right? But teaming with Jarrett, which I know was before all this, like Owen's always been prominently, displayed on TV, and they could have very easy. I love that, even though Bret got screwed, I love that Owen defending his family's honor is the outcome of it, because it almost makes it. I'm sure people use this as a an example of that. Brett knew it wasn't really a screw job, that Brett was in on it, right? Which is not true. It was a fucking screw job, right? So
we don't know. We don't know.
We do, dude. You don't stay bitter that long. There's a difference between.
I'm just keeping it kayfabe.
I know. But I'm telling you why. Brett's not stupid to hold this grudge this long. You know how much money he left on the table from waiting 13 years to come back?
We did a show. We already did a show. I know,
but
it's already in the archives.
It's legit. So you can't just say 3, 4. If Owen's the 4th champion, then the first 4 are pretty fucking awesome first 4 champions.
Well, the circumstances after the 3rd man becomes the champion devalues the belt. And again, with Owen Hart.
So does Owen beat him for the belt before Christian Cage, or does Christian beat him first?
I don't even know if Christian was a European champion.
He was. He beat Triple H, but it wasn't Triple H. It was Goldust dressed up like Triple H.
You sure it wasn't for the Intercontinental title? Because I think positive. It might be. He's not on the list. He's not on the list.
He is. Christian Cage beat Goldust.
Give me the year. Give me the year. Give me the year.
It's when Triple H lost the belt, I thought, the first time.
No, he never had it.
Yes, he did. I'm telling you.
He didn't.
I just watched the whole thing about it.
What year?
I'm going to look it up. Hold on.
Because Triple H lost the belt to D'Lo Brown. And we're going to get
had it more than once.
Yes, and he defeated Owen Hart.
Hold on. No, you're wrong.
Give me the year. That was Owen Hart. Owen Hart defeated.
They pulled a swerve on Sergeant Slaughter. This is why I know it's right around the same time as the finger poke, because they were feuding with Slaughter. Goldust came out in a wig and a fake nose, and
that was Owen.
The belt.
No,
it was Goldust.
That was Owen. He was dressed as Goldust. Trust me.
Hold on.
I'm the professor.
Hold on. That's Christian why Christian had the belt.
It was.
Christian beat JBL. That's right. Christian beat JBL. It was Owen. Owen beat Goldust dressed up like Triple H.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
But I'm telling you, Christian was champion.
That was later when it didn't matter. You're talking about that Triple H thing. I knew he did not beat Triple H. But anyway, neither here nor there. But again, now TW, we getting into the fodder of the European title. And then again, I'll give it to you, TW, with this. The first 4 European champions of Bulldog, HBK, Triple H, and Owen. Those were the 4 horsemen, if you will, of the European title. Everything after that is victim of circumstances, victim of Monday Night Raw booking, Reflectionites, victim of, using the Vince Russo title is a prop, so I need to switch the champions immediately after 3 weeks of reign. So TW, the floor is yours. I guess we could talk about, since you already had in the opening monologues, you talked about this man. You thought that he was one of the best European champions, and that is D'Lo Brown. He was consistent with the belt. I don't know how many times he was a champion. I think he might have been he's a 4-time European champion. So he was lower mid-card. We could say that. He had loads of untapped potential. I think he was also a former Intercontinental champion when the Intercontinental.
He was a Euro. He was the first Euro Continental champion.
He was the first Euro Continental champion. So it meant something to D'Lo. So it's not like no disrespect. Again, this is the fandom in me at TW. It's not a disrespect to D'Lo. But again, when Vince Russo is not making the belts more props and not legacies, it devalues the belt. So TW, what say you about one of your favorites, D'Lo Brown, former 4-time European champion, and one of the first and one of the few Euro Continental champions?
He when someone told me, I remember D'Lo. I don't have the action figure that comes with the European title, but his very first action figure from Mattel comes with the European title. So when people told me, or I read it, whatever, I don't even remember where I read that or heard it, that they thought he was the greatest European champion of all time. D'Lo won it from.
You don't have to go logistical. I'm just talking about him as the champion, what it represented. Again, we thought, it's supposed to be a litmus test, TW. It's supposed to be a litmus test to the Intercontinental Championship, which he got. The Eurocontinental, like you thought. Could he have main evented, a WrestleMania? No, he couldn't. He was a victim of the Stone Cold Rock Train,
right,
and all that stuff. So he couldn't be in that main event scene. But he was very talented, very athletic. I liked him when he was the heel with the fucking bulletproof vest. He was a Shield member, you could say, doing the frog splash.
And he was the guy who, when guys needed to get kangaroo courted, do you remember that run where D'Lo would just run out and frog splash people?
Mm-hmm.
That was what that was. Guys got some backstage heat, got some office heat. They would send D'Lo out to do the frog splash on him, and he did it stiff. And he had that flak jacket on, was kind of to make it a little extra snug and also protect him a little bit. But D'Lo and X-Pac changed it back and forth 2 times each, and then X-Pac lost it to Shane. And D'Lo got it. I think D'Lo lost it to Bulldog, and he won it one more time. I can't remember who he lost it to after that. But D'Lo was the first of 4, the first Euro Intercontinental Champion. Jarrett he lost to, and Jarrett the next night gave it to Mark Henry, who helped. This is the funny thing about this title.
You're going very realistic. We're talking
about D'Lo. D'Lo lost it to X-Pac twice. Mm-hmm. He lost it to He lost it to the Bulldog, and he lost it to Jeff Jarrett with help from Mark Henry, who made Jeff Jarrett the second ever Eurocontinental champion. He had both.
And the bad thing, this is the negative about the way Vince Russo booking, and then of course the Monday Night Wars is like, this is just a couple of weeks in between each other, you could say.
Yeah, he lost it to X-Pac and won it back 2 weeks later, and then he lost it back to X-Pac 3 weeks later. And then Mark Henry hit him with the guitar. That's how Jarrett beat him. The next night on Raw, Jarrett gave the belt to Mark Henry, which made sense. He had to get rid of a belt. I like that. He rewarded him. You can ask the question, well, why didn't you just have Mark Henry beat D'Lo for the belt, right? Because it gives more heat. Like, this guy got rewarded for helping this guy cheat. It's in the moment, it makes sense. In hindsight, yeah, it doesn't, right? So D'Lo ends up winning it back from Mark Henry, and just that belt. So now it's not Eurocontinental anymore. And he was the first of 4, first whatever. Do you know who the second guy to win it 4 times was?
As a Eurocontinental or just
European?
Just European, a 4-time champion. I would want to say X-Pac. He's close. He was a multiple
twice.
Who was the 4-time? Who was the other 4-time?
The second and only out of 2 Europeans to hold the title.
Oh yeah. Oh, William
Regal. Yeah. But the problem with the reason I would give the nod to D'Lo as the best, he's losing it to Jarrett. He's losing it to X-Pac. He's losing it to Bulldog. William Regal lost it to Spike Dudley and traded it back and forth with him. I do like that part, that they're trading back and forth. And I can't remember who else he lost it to. Let's see. Crash Holly is the second time he lost it. Test. By the way, a lot of dead guys had the European title. Crash Holly, Test, Eddie Guerrero.
It's 2025 Reflectionites and the Death Keeper, the Death Lift Keeper.
You want to know what the biggest shock to me was for someone to lose? Like, we talked about Bulldog losing it to Michaels. That's great. Do you know he lost to the second time?
I don't have the whole listing of
Val Venus. That's not the same as losing to Sean. But the thing I was saying is, I don't even remember Jarrett having Mark Henry with him. Sexual Chocolate. Was Deborah involved too? It was them 3? Okay, so I kind of remember it. But then when Saturn beats Eddie Guerrero, which is also fucking mind-blowing that Saturn went over on anyone, let alone Eddie, Saturn was with Marlena. I don't remember that.
Moppy and Marlena. Again, I'm not trying to have you remember storylines. We're just listing the champions.
I'm just telling you that I learned from watching this stuff, people being with people that I don't remember being with them. I don't know why. I remember Crash Holly winning the hardcore title.
You was having orgies with ring rats in Detroit. We know that.
Lima, Ohio.
Lima, Ohio. With neither here nor there. But
you don't.
I think. Well, let me just say this. I think the only person left on the list of a European champion that matters, and it's funny, you might disagree with this, but this was the last time that the championship I'm not gonna say it meant something, but it was just high on the bill, and that's Shane McMahon. It's a bad way.
X-Pac.
He won it from. It doesn't matter how he won it. I think he won it. I think he won it from X-Pac because Triple H finally joined the corporation and they broke up DX, from what I remember. But the reason I'm saying that this was the last time that the European Championship meant something storyline wise, yes, the level of talent goes down because of Shane McMahon. Yes, the nepotism of Vince McMahon giving it to his son defeats the purpose of the European Championship and what you're trying to create. But for Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown TW, it made all the sense in the world to level up this belt, give it some credence, because again, the Intercontinental title was kind of like falling on the priority list. So it was like European champion, Intercontinental champion was down. Then Intercontinental champion was up, European went down. But then it kind of like the Eurocontinentals kind of neck and neck with each other. So you got what I'm saying. But Shane McMahon was probably the last high-profile European champion. No disrespect to X-Pac, no disrespect to D'Lo Brown, Christian, William Regal, and all that stuff. But for high-profile purposes, Shane McMahon was the last legit high-profile European champion. Agree, disagree, have a different take.
Disagree.
Go ahead.
Because there's one more Eurocontinental champion.
Yes, my favorite wrestler, Kurt Angle, I will give all credence in the world. But that was a step. It was a stepping stone. It was a stepping stone.
Triple threat.
Yes, I know that.
Where
I know.
Benoit won the first fall on the Intercontinental title.
And
it's
Jericho
almost like, remember the WrestleMania Battle Royal ladder match where they split the tag belts up and the Usos lost both of them?
But let me tell you why I disagree with you. Again, this by the time it gets to the people that you and I like a Kurt Angle, maybe a Jericho,
Christian,
and Eddie Guerrero, Reflectionites. And again, I'm the most objective man. I call it like I see it. The belt meant shit to me. It was again.
But none of the belts meant shit. The only belt it meant
it's a stepping stone. Once you became a Eurocontinental champion, TW, and Kurt Angle did this, you give the belt up. The European title, you give the belt up. It meant shit. That's what I'm just saying. That's why
Warrior gave up the Intercontinental belt when he won the world title. That's what you do.
No. But for the storyline purpose, just giving it away and the way they treated it was worse.
Yeah.
Not like the Warrior
said it. Shane McMahon retired it and then put it in his bag.
Right, and that's what I'm just saying. He was the last high-profile man that made it a storyline, but yet it dropped precipitously. I'm not denying that, but he's just the last.
Do you know who had their only singles championship? Probably their only championship in the WWE with it? DDP. Yeah. I think he'd take it. He'd rather that over nothing. But here's the thing about that belt, though. In the beginning, that's the belt that took it from Triple Crown champion to Grand Slam. And Shawn Michaels, Grand Slam. Now people are Grand Slams because they had Intercontinental, U.S., World, and WWE title. That's not the same. How many people are actual Grand Slam champions? Shawn, if you're counting those 4 belts. Because who else? Maybe Triple H?
Well, it's hard to be a Grand Slam right now because I think The Miz is really the last legit Grand Slam because he was U.S., Intercontinental, and World Heavyweight Champion, and Tag Team Champion. Yeah. He's really the most legit Grand Slam that we have left.
Well, then Cena and Austin and Rock, I forgot. Cena's
never been Intercontinental Champion.
Huh?
Cena's never been Intercontinental Champion.
Really?
Really, yeah. Well, only the U.S. champion.
That's going to change. That's got to be part of the retirement tour.
But TW, the floor is yours. Again, you and I disagree with it. Like I said, Shane McMahon is the only legit high level. I understand the Kurt Angle, the Chris Jericho. Those were great matches. Eddie Guerrero had great matches for the European title. But again, because of like you said, the Midian debacle, the Mark Henry debacle with Jeff Jarrett and all that stuff, it goes down. You even said you was laughing that Val Venus was a European champion. It just waters it down to the point of relevancy, importance, and all that stuff. I love Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle's my man. Kurt Angle's my guy.
Right. Well, then actually, Kurt Angle would have been the Grand Slam champion too. So that's.
Yeah, I think so. U.S. champion. Was he the Intercontinental champion? I don't know.
Well, the U.S. doesn't really count. It's IC, World, Tag Team, and European. That's the original Grand Slam.
No, I'm trying to remember the U.S. thing. Did he do a U.S. title?
That doesn't count. He was Intercontinental. He was World. He was Tag Team. And unless he didn't have a Tag Team title. Yeah, he was Tag Team champions with Austin.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle's a Grand Slam. And I mean the original Grand Slam before they bought WCW. The European was the fourth base. You're the World, IC, and
that's
tag.
to make you happy, but the Grand Slams has changed over the years.
That's why I said it's bastardized now. I'm talking about who was European, Intercontinental, World, and World Tag Team. Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels.
It's a great trivia answer, TLB.
Benoit.
No. It's a great
Eddie
trivia.
Guerrero.
It's a great trivia answer, but this is why we started the program saying this is an untapped belt, but then it died. It fizzled out so fast in its 5-year history.
Yeah.
So
I think, this is what I think. I think it did. I think it started off good. It got horrible pretty quick. Then they tried to give some prestige to it in 2000s. And then by 2002, it was just a wrap. But here's where I think they missed the bus.
Mm-hmm.
The second NXT UK started, that belt should have came out of retirement. They should have used that lineage, and they should have said NXT European Champion and change it to UK. And then you have
No. I think this belt could have been like the North American Championship. You have the NXT UK Championship.
Or that.
This would have been the number one contender to the NXT UK.
But they should have brought it back to NXT UK.
Yeah,
and
I agree with you 100%.
With its history too. And to answer what you said earlier, I think the probable reason for them not naming it the International Championship, which would have made way more sense, is because, and I am one, and I have been a wrestler, and I hate to say this, and it doesn't apply to all of us.
Okay.
There's not a lot of there's a lot of not so bright wrestling fans out there. And I think if you call it the International Championship, they're going to confuse it with the Intercontinental Championship. And I've always thought the
You think people are that dumb to disassociate Intercontinental with International?
Spelling's not always their thing, dude. And I've always thought the Intercontinental title should have been the European title that was defended in Europe and other places, because Intercontinental doesn't mean just North America. That's some North American championship. Intercontinental means any of the 7 continents. So I think you should have had a U.S. title here, and the Intercontinental title should have been what that European title was. But you can't put the genie back in the bottle, and it's in the other room. But it's no coincidence that some of the greatest wrestlers of all time, the guys that we still talk about today, kids today who weren't even born in 20 years ago, they know Mr. Perfect, they know the Macho Man, they know Bret Hart, they know Shawn Michaels, they know the British Bulldog. The Intercontinental title isn't just a belt; it's a belt that meant you were somebody until Vince Russo. But that 80, like Greg Valentine, Tito Santana, Pedro Morales, maybe Pedro and Valentine aren't in the same category, but Tito is at least in the conversation as being the start of that run of IC champions that people look at it.
I would say Pedro and Valentine are
Pedro's the first.
Tito. Yeah.
No. What's his name?
No. I mean, it's not about being the first. It's just try to make it.
No. I was
relevant.
thinking Pedro's the first. Pedro's the first Triple Crown champion. But I think that belt had a lot of prestige, and for me, just like the U.S. title when it became that the TV title became that ugly WCW TV title, that history, that lineage, it ends there for me, right? Like when you see on Wikipedia where they show a belt and say 84 to 92, that's that belt. 92 belt that I'm looking at right now that came with Steve Austin, I think. No, he came with the real TV title. That little tiny, it came with Steamboat. That's somewhere on here with Steamboat. That TV title is to me, that's not the same TV title. The U.S. title that has that U.S. flag at the top, the WCW first U.S. title, I like that one.
The design is important. The design is important to you. It's
because it defines an era. It defines an era. So that IC title that I talked about with the red WWF logo on it, that's the belt. Once it became that oval one that for whatever reason I associate that with The Rock, that's when the belt became a prop and a hot potato. That's the one he threw into the Detroit River, or Austin did, whoever did. That's when that belt stopped mattering. you know, and the European title had a chance to be the one that matters, and then you give it to Mideon, you give it to Mark Henry, you give it to Triple H. You have Triple H lose it as Goldust dressed up like him. So you turn it into a folly, and I think that's what killed it. But staring at that thing in the back of your tiny little head on the screen for the people in 3 months when A-Track puts it up, that's a beautiful belt. I never realized how pretty that belt was. I like that the flags are on the main plate, not on the side plates. That's a pretty belt, man. And I like the green one, the green snakeskin that D'Lo had. I like the WWF logo on it too.
Well, before I guess we close out TW, because there's really nothing left, I think we have to at least give credence to the last known European champion, and it is my boy.
Favorite wrestler?
I have, well, for ECW purposes, ECW, who's my favorite. WWF is Kurt Angle, but I'm just fair is fair. But
Kurt
the last,
much more, dude.
The last recognized European champion, Reflectionites, was Mr. Monday Night, Mr. Pay-Per-View, Rob Van Dam, and he was the third Eurocontinental champion because it was unified. He was the fourth? Okay.
Yeah. It was D'Lo, Jarrett, Angle, and then him. But they almost don't recognize him because that match, they just had the IC belt hanging up. That was the unification. Whoever won it retired it. So there's no pictures of him with that European belt. Not even in that match.
He might have the European title in his home in Battle Creek, Michigan. You never know.
Well, he probably sold it for $1,000. But
probably true too, Reflection. I can't deny that shit. But
dude, there's more than one guy that sold their Hall of Fame ring.
I'm just saying, but what's the ATW about at least the champions listings? I'm not talking about who won it, who lost it. Who is TW's maybe top 4, top 5 of your favorite?
Bulldog is on there for sure because he's the one that made me care about it. Michaels is on there because of the controversy of him winning it, and even though it's a very brief run.
You have a top 5 or you have a top 5 or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about days.
And this is in order. This is in order.
Okay.
I'm just talking about who I associate that belt with.
Okay.
And first and foremost is Bulldog, Michaels, William Regal, obviously D'Lo Brown, and I would say the fifth guy. You got to say Owen, just because even though it was kind of that's when it started to come apart with Goldust losing it, dressed up as Triple H, kind of made it folly. But to have that first 4 champions be Bulldog, Michaels, Owen, and Triple H, that's a pretty solid first 4.
Okay, I can go with that. I think for me, I just will go with Bulldog because he's the first, and the best. I will go with. I want to be nice here. No, I'm not saying be nice, but out of respect. I think the most consistent one is D'Lo Brown is my number 2. Not in any order, but it would be Bulldog, it would be D'Lo, and then maybe I'll just do a third because I can't really think of a top 5 because, again, the reigns are just so low. After Bulldog's 200-plus reign, everybody was like a 3-week, maybe a month, the most champion and all that stuff. So I'll go with Bulldog, D'Lo being the most consistent, and my favorite Eurocontinental champion is Kurt Angle, but I knew that European title was a stepping stone to bigger and better things. TW, before we close out, let me ask you this hypothetical question, which you kind of like, you nudged it in with your good idea with NXT and all that stuff with the NXT UK. But in TW's humble opinion for 2025, we know that the WWE has too many belts. We know they have 2 heavyweight champions. We got a U.S. champion on one brand. We got an Intercontinental champion. You got NXT's North American champion. You got an NXT champion, all that stuff. Is there a spot in 2025 for the belt right behind my back in today's day and age?
I do got one.
Okay.
I would take that god-awful fucking something cup, whatever the hell it's called.
The Heritage Cup?
I would take the Heritage Cup and make it the European Championship.
So and you switch it to put this belt back.
And I would use the cup rules for the European Championship rules. That way, it doesn't have to be defended in Europe. It's being defended under European rule. That's what I would do.
Or would you just use the design of the European Championship and just change the wording to Heritage Cup?
Even better. Well, you can't. Heritage Champion. I wouldn't call it Heritage Cup.
Well, for logistic purposes, they will put. You have something to hold now. You have a belt instead of the god awful
Heritage Cup champion. Heritage Cup champion. There you go.
There you go. And that being said, we close on this special Spotlight edition, the championship belt edition of the PWR podcast here at the Hami Media Group at Podbean.com. What we're going to do next week, Reflectionites? Keep you on your toes, Reflectionites. Keep you on your toes. Even I kept TW on his toes, and he was dumbfounded when I even said we were going to do this particular episode. So TW, give out those socials so we can finally get out of here.
All righty. You can find the Pro Wrestling Coalition Network sponsoring us at the PWC Network at Podbean.com, Hameen Media Group at Podbean.com as well, and they're at also ChannelAttitude.com. Our show's on X at PW Reflection. Big Ray can be found all over social media at Big Ray Hernandez, and every Wednesday he's live doing the Next Level YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can find me on Instagram and X at Tommy119. And TN Couponer, I'm going to start checking it, I promise. The reason I stay away from that damn X and stuff, Threads is the worst. And someone wrote something yesterday. I'm convinced there's just bots on Threads.
He shares history with us.
Yeah,
and also he wants
I
to
always
share
know
those.
I like him because I see him eventually. So if he ever wonders why I like 30 of them in a row, it's because that's when I'm seeing him for the first time. But I'm convinced that Threads is full of bots that just say dumb shit. Yesterday I saw someone say, "Who's thinking Gavin in 2028?" And I just thought, there's not a person in that state that could possibly be a fan of that guy right now. So for someone to write that on Threads, it's got to be a rib. So you can find me there on Threads, Instagram, and X at TommyWonder19. Snapchat's Number Wonder, Facebook.com/TommyWonder, at TheTommyWonder on TikTok, as well as X again. And then Noel and Big Vito can be found at the Big Vito brand on TikTok. You don't stop.
I'm on Blue Sky at PWSOPROF.bsky.social. I'm also on. Why are you shaking your head?
How do you lead with that one? Full disclosure, I'll never be on Blue Sky. Go ahead.
Again, I'm for the people. I share it wherever I can share.
Start over again, because I want to hear the second one, because I think I heard something that I want to hear again. Go ahead.
And again, you can find me on Twitter at PWSOPROF. That's PWSOPROF. And if this gets uploaded by A-Track Brown, this will be uploaded on the PWSO YouTube networks. Follow my brothers in arms, Billy Ray Valentine at Obi-Wan You Know Me, and the king of the reactions at the number 8 TRAC Brown. And again, next week, I'll just keep you on your toes. One time what?
Since you did the Blue Sky, I'm going to let everybody out there knowing that you can also find me and my 14 followers at T-Wonder on Truth Social.
There you go. That's
I'm
the
going to put that
Reflectionites.
damn video on here. I'm going to figure it out how to do it on there.
That's the Reflectionites right there. So with that being said, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful. Dum Dum Do It. So by the way, you still been saying we're going to eat something. You're going to eat something. You're going to eat some shit. I'm just saying. Dum Dum Do It.
We're going. It's coming. I don't know if you noticed, but I hate the cold. And by the way, I went to the Red Wings game yesterday. 2 days before that. 4 days before that, I'm going tomorrow. I'm a little busy, man. And I'm not renewing my tickets, not because I hate the Red Wings. It's becoming a second job. And so I'm going to go to less concerts this year. I'm still going to try to go to one hockey game out of state, one baseball game out of state, possibly a football game out of state every year. But I think I'm going to reel it in on how many hockey games I go to, because it's a lot of time.
He's lying, Reflectionites. With that being said, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful, Dum Dum Do It Song, the Iron Stomach One, Dr. Frankenstein, and the undisputed Universal Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the World, the Tommy Wonder saying good night. We'll see you next time here at the PWR Podcast at the Hami Media Group at Podbean.com. Peace.
Yeah.